Hello. So I just wanted to read off one experiment, and it was done to assess, study in-group preference, and it was done in 2011. And I'll just give you a little bit of an overview about it because it's a very, very interesting one, and I suppose it answers probably as many questions as it asks, but it seems to ground what's going on in Ireland, in Western nations, pretty well. Okay, it explains a lot of things, so I'd read it. Oxytocin and in-group favoritism, 2011. Karsten de Drouw, his research at the University of Amsterdam explored the biological underpinnings of group preference. In a double-blind study, male participants were given either oxytocin, a hormone linked to bonding, or a placebo via nasal spray. They then played economic games where they could allocate resources to in-group or to out-group members, identified by Dutch versus foreign names. Those on oxytocin showed stronger favoritism toward their in-group, protecting it against perceived outsiders even at a cost to overall fairness. De Drouw proposed that oxytocin, often dubbed the love hormone, amplifies trust and cooperation within groups, but not across them, hinting at a neurochemical basis for ethnocentrism tied to ancestral kin protection. Right, so when I first seen the header, the name of this study, I thought, right, like giving a load of people ecstasy or something, once they're brimming with oxytocin or the love hormone, they'll be super inclusive of everybody, right? Not what it showed at all. Okay, so it showed that if people are experiencing the love hormone, right, if their oxytocin levels are probably standard or normal or elevated in some way, whether that's organically or artificially, they will begin to display in-group preference, a favoritism towards people that they see as their own, they're my people, right? And they will also sacrifice the idea or the action of fairness against others for the sake of their own people, right? So when people are experiencing love, they tend to reflect that out and share that out amongst their people, even in the decisions that they make and in the perspectives that they adopt, right? Which answers the question then. So if I was to try and get in and dismantle a coherent nation, a pretty homogenous nation, if I was to get in and try and untangle it and maybe pit some natives against each other, what would I do? Well, what is the opposite of love? Fear, right? So I would inject as much fear into that population as possible, because what that will do is it will override, more than likely, the desire for in-group preference. It would maybe even, if you couple that then with an antagonistic media, academic promotion, government even promotion. Remember Leo Varadkar, there's too many white people in positions of power in Ireland, this sort of thing. If you were to have the institutions around the country or any country denigrating in-group preference, championing out-groups, and if you were to introduce the strategy of tension, right, you start to artificially create conflict between these groups. You encourage scarcity. You make people afraid of how they're going to pay their bills, how they're going to tend to the basic daily necessities, right? And what this does then, as you're seeing around you, it pits people against each other. It systematically erodes, decays, and breaks up and fragments a people that were once bonded together through an in-group preference, right? So that's fascinating. And you can see it around, like some of the people that tend to be the most hostile towards Irish people just wanting to be around their own people, pick a nation, same applies. They tend to be very aggressive, right? Straight to name calling, if they're not all fake accounts or whatever, like, but it's rare enough you'd see people carry themselves that way in public, right? And well, you can say there's protests and people are like that, But then you find out that a lot of these protests are funded by the Open Society or non-governmental organizations, right? They're receiving funding to go and protest. So the rage is not even real, right? So what is the antidote to that? Obviously, it's oxytocin release or oxytocin elevation, which comes out in bonding, things that you love, right? Following things that you enjoy, and entertaining yourself and having fun and enjoying your life. And the more you enjoy your life, and the more love you put into yourself, and the more love you share with other people, not only are you going to get that fed back to you by decent people, it's also going to boost your desire for an in-group preference, which is fascinating. Because if love is life, right, and life is love, and life is best experienced in moments of love, and love is intricately linked to in-group preference, then that's just natural. There's nothing sinful or blasphemous or morally corrupt about having an in-group preference. It appears to be tied naturally and organically to feelings and sensations and hormones related to love in our life. Is that not a beautiful thing? Who'd want to destroy that?